Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome to another episode from me, Avomance. Today, we are going to build a little tiny village. It's going to be a fortified village because the people living in this village do not want to get attacked by marauders like pirates from the seas, or pillagers from the land, or, frankly, people like you and me who want to just nick their stuff. We're going to do this in time lapse, so it's not strictly speaking a block by block tutorial, but it will be pretty easy to follow, I hope, and you should get some inspiration from it. I'm going to be putting a world download link in the description below so you can come and have a look and see for yourself what you think of it. We are going to do it here. This is a great little plains area. It needs a little bit of terraforming, but it's got the sea nearby. It's got resources such as wood, and the mountains not too far off. So absolutely, this could be a place where someone would want to settle and have a little village. So I guess we better get started with this time lapse. Now, this is the stage of any build that gives you the least gratification, but actually if you don't do it, you're going to pay for it much later on. Minecraft can give you some really funky landscaping, some very severe slopes that make it difficult to work, and also way too many little water lakes, especially in the plains. You want to fix that up, give yourself a landscape that's going to be far more forgiving. Nice gentle slopes that go down are far easier to build up than are these steep slopes that you can get in the middle of the picture there. I'm not going to remove all of the water, I'm just going to remove most of it, and we may put back a little bit later on and join them up, so again it looks far more natural. I recommend you practice these techniques of terraforming because they're going to make builds moving forwards for you so much more simple, whereas the build looks like it belongs in the landscape rather than you've tried to crowbar it into the landscape. So a little bit of time terraforming, it's so worth it. A much kinder landscape to work with, man, much less severe slopes, and we can build something I think really quite nice. We may put in a little bit of water back that we've removed just in the places that we want it. Let's crack on with a little bit of building. I've got wool now. We're going to plan out the houses of this village using these different coloured walls. Now, the idea of using wool allows you to see with really clear offset colour against that green exactly where you're going to be putting these buildings. It's not set in stone by any means, it's just a way for you to visualise something, and you can separate them out using different colours, or you can use it all in the same colour. Maybe you'd like to use one colour for a specific type of building, for example orange to represent a tower. In a moment I'm going to use red to represent my walls. One planned out village, and it is pretty small, and it also looks pretty darn odd and weird. I'm not quite sure how to describe it, but we're going to transform this into something a little bit more interesting and a little bit more connected up as well. The red constitutes where we're going to have walls, and obviously the other colours where we're going to have structures. We've got some towers and some buildings in there, and I think it should come together okay. This is the palette that I'm likely to be using. It is going to be quite a medieval look. We've got some dark oak combined with some white concrete, also oak and spruce and various stones as well. We're going to bring in a few villagers along with a few villager workstations as well, just to make it a little bit more authentic. So we're going to build each individual building one at a time, but we're not going to detail it yet. We're just going to get the structure of the buildings there, and we'll do proper detailing in a little while. Now, what's really important to remember here is this is a very small village, what will be called in the UK a hamlet, and that means there aren't any big houses. These houses are all fairly small, they all have a function, the population is tiny, and they all work together to build a life. So there'll be a few tradesmen, there'll be a fisherman, there'll be a farmer, there'll be people like blacksmiths, but there's not going to be a thriving community with lots and lots of people and lots of houses. That would then make it a town. This is not a town. There'll be a number of community facilities like storage sheds and stables, and these will be included in this build as well. We also are going to build up a gatehouse, and the gatehouse has got two tiny little guard towers next to it, just to make sure that anybody that comes through the gate is at least going to be friendly. Maybe they're traders from other villages. And we also need to build up proper guard towers, bigger ones that have got a far greater range and you can see for a far greater distance. There are going to be 3 in this little hamlet. They're very worried about getting marauded by pirates or frankly us, like I said before. So we have got one that is made of dark oak, we have got one that is made out of spruce and one that is made out of oak. Moving on to make the walls now, and we're going to make these using stone and wood combination, logs going up into the air at various heights just to make a little bit of interest, always at least 2 high so as we can't get anybody hopping over that fence. This is after all a fortified village. Now I wanted to do slightly different things for this particular part of the wall that goes up to that spruce tower, and what I'm planning to do is have a track that goes through the wall with a bit of a bridge. Topping off the wall now with some fence posts and also some stone walls, fence going onto the wood and stone going onto the stony rocky ones, just to give it a little bit more texture and another level of height as well, make another barrier for anybody trying to come inside. Working on the front gate, we're going to make this really simple. It's going to be a strip spruce arch with some steps, some trapdoors covering it up and some gates just to keep the villagers in. Finishing off that bridge that I mentioned, using trapdoors to give sides and a guide to that bridge also gives a little bit of protection if someone's pinging arrows at you from a distance. Similarly, we create another bridge over to the oak tower, but this time using fence posts. The tiny fortified village is getting there. We have got the structure in already. All the buildings are there, the walls are there, and they're looking pretty good. 0 detail, however. Okay, we've pebble dashed all those walls, but they've got no real detail, so we need to make them look like actual buildings we would be proud of. This may be a hamlet, but people like to have nice buildings. We've got these support buildings as well, like this stable. We've got the store area over there. We need to get this thing sorted out. They need a little town square. For goodness sake, let's get the detail going. So this is probably the most important part of the entire village makeup, and we're going to turn this pretty average circle of houses into a small community, and we start by putting some detail on those houses just to start to bring a little bit more life into them. After that, we work on the centre of the village. We need to make this look like it's lived in. This has got a lot of traffic going around in it, so it needs to be well trodden. We're going to put in some coarse dirt there. We're going to bring in some gravel and some path blocks just to make sure that it looks like people use it to come together and to rest and to wander around and enjoy the day. We put in some lighting in the middle and also a small well that will later on serve as where we put the bell. I then bring a path around the entire village and also a path going off into the distance. It's got to be served by something. I bring in a small pier and start work on a tiny little fishing cottage. This is where they're going to be bringing most of their food in. And speaking of food, we need to make a whole ton of crops. So I bring in a load of fields across that mountainy hill area, and we're going to completely cover that up with wheat. It's going to make for a really nice effect next to the village. We then give the entire outside a little bit of life by bringing in bushes, adding some trees and putting some bone meal on the ground just to make sure that it looks like it's alive and natural. We also add in a little pumpkin patch and a melon patch. We need to bring the finishing touches into this build, so I put some buttons, stone buttons on wood and wood buttons on stone all around that wall just to look like it's been nailed together and adds a little bit of strength. I then bring in some fields which will be used for animals, sheep and cows, outside of the village next to the field. The houses need some chimneys. Again, it looks lived in if you put chimney with some animated smoke coming out the top, so we put in a few chimneys on a few of the buildings. I then put a gazebo using campfires on the front of one of the buildings, again, just to change the shape up a little bit. It's time to add in some workstations and bring in some villagers with some professions. A lot of them become fishermen because there's so many barrels lurking around, but that's okay, because really, I think this is a fishing village. We also had horses, we had sheep, we had cows, and I even throw some chickens and cats in too. We then add some final finishing touches and our little building is complete. We have created a small community of a number of villagers, mostly fishermen to be fair, but I think they'd be very happy in this little fortified village. Remember, there is a world download in the description below. Please do feel free to come and have a look around and see what you think. If you have enjoyed this video, please do remember to slap that like button. It'd be great to know you're enjoying it, and I will keep on making it. Also, if you've not done it already, please do hit that subscribe button. It'd be great to see you in my sub club, and I look forward to seeing you in another video. You take it easy now. Bye.